420, and I saw him. The guy's like four and change. I'm like, wow, what's going on here?
People reading.
A lot.
We send these tapes out to people to transcribe them.
Okay.
For their benefit, I need you to say your name. I need
Okay.
you to spell your name, please.
Okay. Colin Mcnish, ColinMcnish.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, when I mention the palestra, what's the first thing that comes into your mind?
Just energy, pure energy. Playing there was just, I mean, my freshman year was, I had no idea what I was in store for. And, you know, walking onto that arena and, you know, I can see the tradition walking in there. And I think one of my fondest memories was when the very first basket was scored by either team, all these streamers would just go out, and I was just sitting there in awe. You know, it was just an amazing, amazing feeling. I'll always remember that.
So, in a word, charming, historic, scary, what was it?
I think in a word, it was, I was just in awe. First of all, you know, coming from the background that I came from, a young kid from the Caribbean, I came from Trinidad. This was all very new to me, you know, so I was just like a sponge just soaking it all in, man. I was just like so excited, you know, butterflies, the whole nine. I was like, yo, the palestra. You know, I've heard so much about it, you know, going to high school in Delaware and actually experiencing it. I mean, it was just awesome.
So just sum it up then, what makes it such a special, such a hallowed place?
I think more so is the tradition and the rivalry with the Big Five. It's been hyped up so much, you know, you're playing at the palestra, you hear so much about it. And once you get there, you know, you're actually in it, and it's man, you know, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now.
Let's talk about the rivalry. I mean, how do you describe the Big Five rivalry?
I think it was really, for me, it was healthy rivalry. I mean, we knew pretty much who we were up against, you know, with the Villanovas, with St. Joe's, LaSalle, Drexel. We knew who we were up against. I think one of our biggest rivalries, I mean, concerning Temple was Penn. You know, Ivy League guys, you know, always felt they were a little bit better than us. So, you know, we always wanted to stick it to them. Unfortunately, for me, when I was there, the first 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year, they actually stuck it to us. So I was like, you know what, before I graduate, we got to get these guys. And, you know, we did. We succeeded. You know.
What about the city of Philadelphia itself? I mean, why does it seem to be such a natural fit to have this intense sort of five-pronged rivalry going on in Philadelphia? Why does it work in Philadelphia?
You know, that's a really good question. I never really could figure it out, but I believe, you know, because everybody's in such close proximity of each other, you know, everybody wanted to have that upper hand, you know, basically, and I think it's bragging rights. I think that's what it basically boils down to, bragging rights. You know, hey, we got it this year. You know, come get us next year. You know, I think more so it's all about the bragging rights.
What about the crowd? What about the people in the building watching the game? I mean, if you've got, you know, half a crowd that's Penn and half a crowd that's Temple, what's the atmosphere like? What about the fans?
The fans, I mean, they were electrifying, to say the least. I mean, everybody, you know, they came to back their particular teams. And what was funny at times was when I was there, when they're announcing the players, the starting five, the opposing team playing at Penn, we would go in there and they'll come out and they'll say, they'll have these funny little signs, you know, like, who's he? Where's he been? You know, he's a nobody. So I found that very amusing, and I think that the rivalry was very healthy. The fans, you know, they fell into the whole scheme of things, and it made it more special, you know, that it was healthy. It wasn't really something that they were trying to really hurt anyone or anything like that, but it was just friendly rivalry, and I think I enjoyed it. I really did.
Just night and day, say, from a game at McGonigal Hall or anywhere else?
Well, McGonigal Hall, I mean, it's there. You know, we have our traditions there as well. I mean, you know, that's home turf, so to speak. So it's mostly our fans. I enjoyed the history. I mean, when you walk around McGonigal Hall, you see, you know, the Hall of Fame of athletes. You know, you mentioned Bill Cosby. He's a Hall of Famer. You know, all the older basketball players that had been there before. You know, it's more tradition, and, you know, it's a sense of pride when you play at McGonigal Hall. And that's what I got out of it, learning the tradition there and being a part of that tradition was really fun for me.
Now you played both for Don Casey, then John Chaney.
Yes.
Okay, so John Chaney, your first introduction, your first meeting with him.
Wow. First introduction to John Chaney. I think the first words out of his mouth was, "There's a new sheriff in town. What you've done in the past is over with." And the whole room just got quiet, and everybody was like, okay, what are we in for? And this guy just laid down the law. And one of the things that I remember him saying was, you guys will never be mistaken by me. I'm a clearly defined individual. I'm going to come at you one way and one way all the time. And he proved this right. He's been one way since I've known him, and I think I respect him a lot more for that too.
Your first year in terms of wins and losses was kind of a struggle under Coach Chaney.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we went through a bit of a struggle. People were injured, getting used to his new system. It was a tough transition, but we all came through it. And I think what it did as a team, we dealt with adversity, and it made us even stronger and a lot closer. So going forward into the following year, we knew what we were capable of. We knew that we had that self-confidence that we can go out there and we can play with the big boys. And Chaney made us believers. And I think that's in melding a team together like that and coming off this sort of adversity we had the year before, we were ready. We were prepared. And that's one thing. He definitely made us very, very, very prepared. Today, I really do appreciate his work ethic. He always used to say they could be stronger, bigger, faster, but, no reason why they got to be smarter. We're going to work harder than everybody else. Hence the reason why we started the 5 o'clock in the morning practices. I wasn't too happy about that, but it took a while getting used to it.
Tell me more about the practices.
Oh, listen, coming into practice, Chaney used to say, listen, guys, better come with your running shoes on because we're going to run. We're going to run. If you come late for practice, he said, Mcnish, you're going to die the death of a racehorse because I'm going to run you into the ground. And so I made sure, I think going into my senior year, he made me co-captain, and he said, you're going to be responsible for getting guys to practice on time. So if someone came in late, not only did that person have to run, I had to run because it was my responsibility. So I kind of cracked the whip on the younger players and made sure everyone was there on time, and we did what we needed to do. But it was a good experience, knowing that you had to be responsible, you had to get things. You're a student athlete, you had to get certain things done, your homework, your studies, everything done, get enough rest. You used to say, stay away from the girls during the season, which was kind of, I wouldn't even talk about that. But, we complied, and we worked hard. We worked very, very, very hard. And we showed the results.
I mean, interrupt, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, a lot of places, they say student athlete, and it's a bit of a misnomer. At Temple,
well, at Temple, there was a big change in terms of when Chaney came on board. He took that very seriously. He made sure that was mandatory. We had to go to counseling, to tutoring, whatever we needed, we had to go. It was mandatory. And I think that should be the primary focus, that you are a student first and an athlete second. Sometimes that sort of gets lost in translation somewhere along the line. Fortunately for me and for a lot of the players that were there, a lot of us, we did graduate. I graduated on time. And it certainly helped, when you do make it mandatory, whether you need the help or not. It puts everybody in the same category. You're not smart or you're not dumb or whatever. It puts everyone in the same category. It's a team effort. And the counselors that we had there as well, they were superb, in giving us the extra help that we needed. Because, a lot of times, you kind of fall behind. You're on the road, you're missing classes, you do need that extra help. And I think it's something that should be applied in all colleges, I would imagine, for student athletes. Because some of us do need that extra help.
So he's trying to do a lot more than build you as basketball players.
I think overall he's really trying to build character in young men. And it's something that the lessons that I've learned from him has certainly transcended into my personal life and how I teach my children. and some of the lessons, I've actually told stories that he's actually told me and told it to my kids, in certain instances. And it's like, listen, you got to do it this way, and this is why. And, it's like it brings a smile on my face. It's like, the pupil is now the teacher, So it certainly has helped me in the long run working under his tutelage.
He could have that sort of intimidating look, that sort of evil eye look about him?
Well, that's his passion. A lot of times it's misinterpreted. People see him on television, this ranting, crazy man on the sidelines, tie all looking unkept. But, one thing, I wasn't used to that in the beginning. And, we sat down and had a conversation, and he was like, listen, Mcnish, I understand you may have issues with the way I would come at you. He says, but I see your potential, so I'm going to come at you. It's not personal. It's never going to be personal. It's what you're doing on the court and where I want you to go, the direction I want you to go. And once we came to that understanding, it's sort of like water off a duck's back. I know why he's yelling at me, because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, or I'm not working hard enough or whatever. So I think in life, it toughens you up a bit, and because people will come at you, but as long as it's not personal, I can deal with it. And I think Cheney, that's one of the fondest lessons I've learned with him, is it certainly built my character as an individual. I can deal with a lot more out here. Because, like I said, a kid from the Caribbean, I'm not used to someone like screaming at me. I'm like, who is this guy? He just goes off on a tyrant, sometimes. But like I said, that's his passion. That's one thing I respect Coach for. Very, very passionate man. Sometimes misinterpreted, but he's a man that speaks his mind and is not afraid to.
You talk a little bit about his physical appearance during the course of a game. Give me a little bit more on that.
Well, I mean, he will start off a game, might have a suit on, tie, and the game may get heated, or the refs aren't making calls our way or whatever, and he just goes off, and his tie comes down, and he's like, his facial expressions and his antics, and it's like he's ready to explode. And you just sit there. Here you are, a little 19, 20-year-old kid looking at this guy. I was like, he's going to pop a vessel any minute, man. What's going on with this guy? It was kind of humorous at times, to see Coach. And, we'll talk about it. It's my teammates. We'll talk about it. And, we'd have a good laugh about it at the end of the game, as long as we had a W. As long as we had the W. If we had a loss, man, you just, you zip it. Don't say anything, because he was going to be on a rampage the next day at practice. So we knew what we were in for. But overall, I don't see his antics any different from any other coaches, like the Bobby Knights and people like that. I think when you see them doing things like that, that's just how passionate they feel about the game. Like I said, it can be interpreted any which way. But to me, sitting for, as a player, you watch this man and you see how he prepares, you see how hard he works, how well he prepares you, him, his coaching staff, how well they work with you. It's just, that's their passion, man. That's their life, and that's his life. That is his life. I couldn't imagine what Coach would do if he was to retire tomorrow, because this guy seems like he wants to go on forever. I don't blame him if he can't do it.
So where is he at, though, today in terms of his image? It hasn't all been positive, obviously, in the last year or two for Coach. Misunderstood? How do you define, the way he's been perceived the last couple of years?
Well, the last couple of years, the media has certainly jumped on his back for whatever reasons. He's had a few incidents. Most recent was the incident with when Temple played against St. Joe's, and him sending in a young man to do a hard foul. But something like that, it's part of the game. It's not something that most coaches would admit to, but it's just part of the game. And most contact sports are like that. It's like, look, you know what, that play over there, you know what you got to do. I remember when we played against Wichita, we played against Xavier McDaniels. This guy's like the leading rebounder. He's this, he's that, he's whatever. And I took it personal. He's like, Mcnish, that's your assignment. And I trained for this guy. We practiced for this guy, to shut him down. And I did whatever I had to do. One of my things is when I step on the court, I take it to the next level. It's like, look, you're not going to do what you normally going to do. I'm going to make you do something else. And I would go in there and I'll hit you, I'll bang you, I'll push you, I'll do whatever it needs to be done. And that's the passion, and that's the beauty of the game. You know, you go in there and you do whatever needs to be done. You're not going to go out there to physically hurt anybody intentionally, you know, but it's part of the game. For him to admit that outright, you know, I don't necessarily agree with that. But again, you know, that's Cheney. You know, he is going to stand by whatever he feels is right, whatever he feels is right in his heart. And you can sit there and criticize and say whatever, but, you know, you got to look at the good a man has done over his career. You know, you may have a few scars here and there, you know, things that may sort of, you know, really show a bad mark on your career, whatever. And I think people tend to dwell on that a bit too much. Look at what he has done over the years, you know, and really judge him on that, not on poor judgment, you know, at some period in his career. I mean, to err is human, to forgive divine. That's what I believe. So if they're going to judge him on mistakes that he's made or things that he's said or done, so be it. But he is someone that is to be reckoned with, and he's someone to be respected. And that's just my personal feeling.
So his legacy, just to sort of button it all up, I mean, his legacy is obviously, in your mind, a very positive one.
I believe so, because, you know, I look at the overall picture. You know, when you look at something or a person, you can't just look at them at one side. You have to look at both sides, and then you balance it out. You weigh it out and say, you know what, overall, this was a good guy. He's done good in his life. He's made mistakes. You know, he's atoned for them, and, you know, we have to move on. If you're going to sit there and dwell on it, I'm like, well, maybe you have a lot of time on your hands, but I certainly don't. But that's how I feel, basically. I think he's been a great coach, a great influence on many, many people, male and female. And I think, you know, his legacy will continue. You know, with guys like myself who can speak positively, and he has certainly transformed their lives. I personally go out there and I teach to younger people. You know, I've coached and try to influence them in the right way, and, you know, hopefully they can go on and be better people. You know, and it's like each one teach one. You know, and I firmly believe that.
So you'd love to someday, you know, if it came to it, you'd love for your kid to play for John Cheney?
Well, you know, this spring he had an opportunity to meet Coach Cheney, and it was a great honor for him to meet my children. You know, I took photos with him, and I said to him, I said, listen, it's a great man you with here, you know, and I want you to understand that. And it would be a great honor if my son was to actually become a student athlete playing basketball or whatever sport, for that matter, that he chooses. I mean, he's into basketball, he's into skateboarding and all that. So I'm like, you know what, when you make up your mind, let me know. If it's basketball you want to go into, fine. I'll certainly lead him on the way. But it would be a great pleasure and honor for him to, providing that coach is still around and still coaching, you know, to work under his tutelage. But we'll see. We'll see. I think Cheney will forever be in the hearts of people at Temple, in the hearts of people in Philadelphia. He's an icon there, totally. You know, and no matter what he does or says, you know, I think people who truly understand him knows where he's coming from, and knows that in his heart that he means well. He wants to do well for others and help others. So I mean, once your heart is pure like that, you know, you tend to overlook, you know, the little bumps in the road. You're like, you know what? All right, John, you made a mistake. All right, let's move on. Okay, don't do that again.
And finally, is it Philadelphia, do you think, that's not enabled him to be successful, but has sort of in some way allowed it? In other words, maybe his act wouldn't play so well in Peoria. But Philadelphia, being the way it is, a very tough-minded, hard-nosed...
Absolutely.
Well, let me get you to say that then.
Well, absolutely. I believe Philadelphia is certainly plays a big part in that. I think it's a basketball town. It's a sports town. And, you know, he revels in it. And he's certainly risen to all the challenges, because when he came on board, I mean, a lot of, you know, eyebrows were raised, and like, you know, this guy's come from Division III or whatever. And, you know, here he is, you know, at Temple. You know, who's this guy? You know, let's see what he can do. And he's certainly proven himself. And, you know, like I said, his work ethic is that he knows what challenges are ahead of him. he will get up early, 5, 6, whatever, and work. And I think you really can't, you can't really, hold that against a guy. You can't hold on an individual who has that type of work ethic. And Philadelphia is the type of city that, is very, blue collar. People get up and they work and they grind and they do what they need to do. And he's very respected for that because they see he's gotten results. Even if he has a bad season or whatever, so-called maybe under 500 or whatever, people know that this guy's going to come right back out, roll up his sleeves like he does on the sidelines, pull his tie down and say, okay, guys, let's get to work. We got work to do. And I love that. I love that. I follow Temple every year. He calls me up, Mcnish, when are you coming out to a game? All right, Coach, I'm trying to make a game. All right. When are you going to be in New York? When are you playing for them? So I try and, really go out and support. And even when he's trying to recruit, he will call me up. He said, listen, I'm looking at a player in New York. You can go take a look at him. He's playing at so-and-so, and I'll help him out. So, we stay in touch like that. And we've had a very good relationship over the years. Staying in touch with him, going out to his office from time to time, just sitting there, just talking about anything, about life, my family, his family, whatever. And his door is always open. And I think that's one thing you can trace back to all his players. They'll always tell you, his door is always open to you. Once you've played under this guy and worked with him at some point, his door is always open to you. He'll always sit down and, have a conversation. You might get an earful, but, that's John. That is John, and I love that about him. And it goes right back to what I said in the beginning. He's a clearly defined individual. He's not going to run with the fads or whatever. He is going to be straight and narrow. This is who I am. This is who you got to deal with. Take it or leave it. You got to respect a man for that.
Indeed. Thanks, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Don't get up yet, 'cause there's